Professional Learning Communities webinar number 1. And again, this is our webinar for the Health and Medical PLC. So if you are not part of that group, you are welcome to stay with us, but we will be focusing on topics and specific examples related to this group. So we thank you for joining us. Right now we have you muted, and that's just to minimize background noise. We will have some opportunities throughout the session today for you to share examples and ask questions, so we'll encourage you to do that. Also, if you have a thought or a question that you can't wait for one of those open sharing times, please go ahead and type that into the question box, and that question box is available to you in your control panel, which is probably on the right-hand side of your screen. You're welcome to type any questions or comments into that throughout the session. And you're also welcome to raise your hand. For those of you who are on our tech check sessions, we practiced this. There's a hand icon on that control panel. It looks like a high five. And we encourage you to raise your hand if you are interested in sharing a thought or a comment. But why don't we, just to get started, why don't we go ahead and I'd like to ask you all just to type into that question box your name and school, and certainly if you have more than one person sharing a connection today, please type in the names of everyone who is in your group so that we can make sure to give everyone credit for participation. Kathy will be monitoring those as we get started here. So the focus for today's session is, we're calling it Start Strong, Stay Strong, and what we'll be sharing with you today are some interesting and creative ideas that were put together for us by Tracy Stetler, who is the literacy coach at Reading-Muhlenberg Career and Technical School. Unfortunately, Tracy had another commitment, so she wasn't able to join us in person today, but Kathy Schick will be going through the materials that Tracy prepared and also adding some of her own thoughts to that. But basically what we'd like to share with you today are some ideas on ways to keep your students engaged throughout their time, beginning at the beginning of the school year to the end, throughout the whole time that they're with you, as well as some ideas on making sure that they feel welcome and comfortable and truly engaged in their classroom setting. Again, just to let you know who's in the room, so to speak, on our end, I'm Jennifer Grams with Meter Consulting. We also have Kathy Schick. And unfortunately, as I mentioned, Tracy Stetler will not be able to join us in person today, but we will be sharing with you the materials that she prepared. Let's just do a quick tech check. I see that many of you have typed in your information into the question box. Thank you for doing that. Appreciate that. If there's anyone who's not able to hear me or is having trouble viewing the screen, right now you should see a slide that says tech check with a man who is multitasking quite well there. Please type in a note or raise your hand if you're having difficulty with technical access to our webinar today, and we'll do our best to get you connected. Let's see, just take a quick look here, and I don't see any issues currently, so that's good news. If you do have anything that comes up throughout the session, please make use of that question box. So just a few more minutes on some overviews and big picture items, and then we'll dive into our content. An overview of today's session. We're going to start out with just a quick request from Dr. Burkett, the Director of CTE at the Department of Education. She's asked us to get some information from you. And then we'll dive into our presentation on classroom environment and management. We'll finish up with explanation of a follow-up activity that we've prepared for you. And then if we have time, any questions or answers either about the material shared today or about the PLCs in general. And again, we also encourage you to ask questions throughout the session as well. You don't have to save them to the end. So Dr. Burkett has asked us to collect some information from each of the PLC groups. They are in the planning stages for the PACTech conference in June. And we would like to hear from you. What types of sessions would be of interest to you to attend at the conference? So are there any technical topics, be it a new type of equipment or a procedure that you would like to receive some training on or participate in a session, curriculum, textbooks, anything of that nature that you would like for us to take back to the planners for the conference to let them know that that's something you're interested in hearing more about. I do see a hand raised. Mary is raising her hand. Mary, I'm going to unmute your microphone. Hi, Mary. Did you have something you'd like to suggest? Mary Kazicki, I've unmuted your microphone. Would you like to make a comment? Okay, unfortunately I'm not hearing from you, so if you have something that you'd like to type into the question box, please feel free to do that. If anyone else has suggestions, you're welcome to type those in now or throughout the session today. Kathy, do we have any suggestions so far?
No, we don't have anything, and Mary did put her hand down, so I have a feeling Mary hit an icon she didn't mean to hit. I could be wrong, but I think that might be. But yeah, we don't have any suggestions, so please add those for Dr. Burkett.
Okay, and we'll be reporting back to her with any ideas that you share. So please think about those and let us know. And with that, I would be happy to turn over our presentation to my colleague, Kathy. Kathy, as some of you may know, has most recently been a literacy coach at the Lehigh Career and Technical Institute. She's currently on leave from that position, and we've been fortunate that she has been joined our team here at Meter Consulting to work on the PLCs as well as some of our other projects. So I'm very excited to hear from Kathy, and I hope that some of the ideas she's sharing with you, again, a blend of those presented or prepared by Tracy Stetler as well as some of Kathy's own thoughts will be of interest to you today. So please feel free to ask questions, raise your hand, post comments throughout the session. I'll be monitoring those, and we'll be interested to hear from you on your thoughts and experience as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Kathy. Kathy, I'll show the next slide, and then once you've had a chance to talk about that, I can turn over the presentation to you.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy. I am pinch hitting for Tracy. She's been we're doing, as you know, 6 different PLCs. So she's been helping us by being the guest speaker for this first webinar for all 6 sessions, but today she just couldn't attend. So what I did was, with her permission, I'm going to use in just a moment her PowerPoint presentation. I did change a few things. You know, it's always hard to take someone else's work and make it your own, and I didn't know if I could do justice to all of her work. So if you know Tracy, or if you're in Tracy's school, please give her a shout out of thanks for sharing these resources with us. I'm also a literacy coach like Tracy. As Jennifer said, I'm on leave this year. I'm working with Meter Consulting, which has been a lot of fun. And my background is as a reading specialist, so these are topics I'm passionate about. Now, before Jennifer, let me share this screen quickly, and then I want to say something before Jennifer and I switch screens. This is just, and hello Donna, my colleague at LCTI. This is from just some pictures from LCTI, just to kind of dip our toe in the water. I liked these. This is a poster to make for your routines. Last 5 in 5 and first 5 in 5. Those are things that kids learn to do the last 5 minutes of class, the last 5 things to do in the last 5 minutes, and the first 5 things to do in the first 5 minutes. I just really like that quick visual and that routine. Okay, now what I wanted to say before Jennifer and I changed screens is that I had an awful, terrible experience last week with our wonderful commercial arts people where I accidentally stopped the I completely just stopped the webinar by accident. I'm new to a Mac and I pressed that little red button and the whole webinar just completely stopped and I was mortified, meaning I cut everyone off. So if I cut you off, if you hear this robotic voice that says the organizer has just ended the webinar, please just call back in, okay? So having said that, wish me luck. Go ahead, Jen, and switch screens with me, and I will try not to end the webinar in the meantime. Okay, show my screen. See, I've learned I can no longer multitask.
That's right. It's a good lesson for all of us.
It is. Oh my goodness. Okay. So let's see. Did I do anything? I've got to get us in slideshow presentation. Are we good? Are we still there?
I see routines and procedures.
Excellent. Okay, everyone. This was a topic that we called Start Strong, Stay Strong. We know you got off to a start strong, but we also know through decades, believe it or not, decades of research on classroom management. I think the research on classroom management started in the 60s, but we know that it's something that has to be consistent and revisited and reflected upon and tweaked throughout the year. We also know it is the most frightening thing for new teachers. As an instructional coach who came from a traditional school setting, I learned from my colleagues at LCTI that you come into teaching from industry, and I don't mean to generalize, but I'm going to. Many of you come, well, all of you come in from industry to be a CTE teacher, and many of you come with the assumption that I'm going to go teach healthcare, and it's going to be to high school students that just are dying to get into a healthcare classroom. That's why they selected to come to my school, which is a choice school. So all I really need is to come in and be an expert in my content, and the kids will just be so excited to apprentice under me. And then you get to the classroom and find out, you know what, kids are kids, and even though they're interested in your content and your professional field, they still come with their own issues. And many of them did not choose to be in your content. It was what was open, or it was their second choice. So I know I've talked to a lot of CTE teachers who are a little bit shocked. They thought they would come and the kids would just be dying to hear them talk. So this is one of those areas that's a real eye-opener to any new teacher. I'd like to share with you a quick, I think we all know the name Harry Wong. He and his wife are quite well known for their work on classroom management. Not everyone agrees with everything Harry Wong has to say, but I would like to quickly read just a passage. Contrary to what many people believe, the #1 problem in the classroom is not discipline. It is the lack of procedures and routines. Classroom management has nothing to do with discipline. Behavior will rarely become a problem when effective teaching is already taking place. On the first day of school, you can begin teaching the procedures and routines that you will use. Never assume that you will have time to tackle bad behavior later, meaning get that in with your routines and procedures in the beginning. Becoming an effective teacher depends on classroom management, especially on the first day of school. Let's take a quick poll based on that. I like this cartoon. Isn't it true? I'm going to open up a poll, and let me see if I can do that fairly easily. And I'd like for you to click on which statement best describes you. We'll take a minute to do this. 32% have voted, so let's go a couple more minutes. 50% have voted. $75% have voted. Okay. We have 80%, 82% of you have voted. So let me close the poll. And I think now I can share the results. Can you see the results, Jennifer?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so 79% of you thoughtfully develop a comprehensive plan, and 21% of you start with the management plan, and I can't see the rest of that sentence on my screen, but I think it says, but don't return to it. None of you kind of wing it, which is great to see. But I think what we're really addressing today is the idea that here we are in November, you've gotten off to you've started the year, whether it was a good start or not, you had some sort of plan, it looks like, but now are you revisiting, are you revising, are you reflecting, and are you tweaking it as need be? So let me start sharing some of Tracy's slides. We're going to talk now about some academic routines. What kind of routines do you put in place that also support academic achievement? This was something Tracy shared from a teacher in her school that does a weekly what did you learn today kind of journal. And I'm sure a lot of you do something like this. I'll be asking in a few minutes for you to share something you do. But this is a nice format to hand out once a week. If you notice, the verb under each day is different. So Monday is list in steps, what you learned today. The next on Tuesday is explain, it's tell. Wednesday is more analysis, and then summarize, and then Friday is a free write. Tracy also shared one of her collision repair teacher's journal entry sheet, which is similar. This would be a routine to get kids writing, thinking about a word of the day, defining a word of the day. And also an auto body collision teacher who shared a booklet that he does, and I believe this is once a week. So it's a packet or a booklet that is given out at the beginning of a week or a weekly cycle, and I think I have another page of it. So every day there is some sort of writing, math, vocabulary, and again building the routine of, you know, this is expected daily. So it's not a surprise. It's not, kids may still grumble a little bit about it, but it's not going away because you're consistent with it. Tracy also shared that at her school, she's fortunate enough to have, I call them closed circuit TVs. I don't know if that's the technical term or if that shows my age. But you know how some schools have a TV in every classroom, and that TV can show in-house footage. I know my children's school, Parkland School District, has that from kindergarten through high school. Every school has, might I say, a flat screen TV, which as a taxpayer, my mind is a little blown by that. But and so that's where they do their morning announcements and all kinds of shared information. So Tracy's school has that. Tracy's responsible for every day posting a word of the day. At my school, we did not, at LCTI, we do not have, it's about the only thing we don't have there. We have wonderful equipment, but we don't have the closed circuit TVs. So one thing I did was create monthly academic word posters that teachers put in their room and would refer to, and then this, the administrative assistants, when they would make the morning announcements and the afternoon announcements, they would try to embed those words, and those words would try to, the teachers would try to use those words. Sometimes kids got points if those words were used in their writing. So the words were played with. Tracy also showed what her math coach does at her school, also again using the television monitors in each classroom. There is a math, I think it was once a week, so the math problem is displayed on a Monday, for example, and by Friday there is a follow-up. So again, daily routines that are building and supporting academic work. Tracy also shared that a lot of her teachers use a tool of the week. They will take a photograph, post this, and then ask the kids, you know, what is it used for, how do you use it, list the steps. And here's another example of using images to ask kids to respond to what is this, what is it used for. And I just want to share my little by the way that I added. Do you know about Google Images? So I'm going to ask Jennifer, would you just keep an eye? Let's ask everyone if you know how to use Google Images to find photographs. Let's say keep your hand down. If you do not know how to use Google Images, raise your hand. I do not know what you mean by Google Images, or I do not know how to use Google Images. Please raise your hand because I might just do a quick demonstration.
3, 4, 5. Looks like we have about 5 or 6 folks who are raising their hands, Kathy.
Okay. With that number, how about Jennifer, if you can put your hands down, thank you. If you would remind me at the end, I'll just do a quick, I'll get out of this screen and I'll go to the internet and I'll show, because I was also an ESL teacher, I used Google Images all the time to find good photographs of equipment and processes.
Right. Can I make a comment about this example too? It just makes me think back to last year on some of our math integration sessions, we had Kathleen McNally from SREB who shared some information, and this reminds me of one of her examples where we're asking students to look at different types of information. You have some visual, you have some numbers, you could incorporate some writing into this as well. So I think this is a really rich example that you could use in a lot of different ways. So I like this.
And we know from brain research that I guess technically it's called non-linguistic representation, representing something without words, basically pictures, photographs. We know that that is a great way to remember something. That I see it, I remember it. Thank you. Okay, Tracy also shared a routine of Nocti Monday. I bet a lot of you do something like this, where there's a Nocti review question once a week. And this is one from one of her health teachers. I wonder if that person is on with us. Maybe she can put a comment in if she is. And by the way, this PowerPoint will be sent to you. Tracy shared that this was some student teams who created a list of rules in the healthcare nursing lab. I thought this was nice to share. I like the swearing jar. So glad my kids never made me do that at home. Now, I would like you to share. So if you would please just type in a brief description of a routine that supports reading, writing, Nocti review, performance. Is there anything that you could share briefly by typing it in that we could take a moment and hear from some of you? So let me give you about 30 seconds.
Don't see any comments yet.
I can't believe it.
I know, we have a very quiet group.
Too large to have no comments. You're our largest group, and you're becoming our most quiet group. That cannot be. I'm going to start throwing out my own medical issues soon and asking for advice if you don't,
Okay, now they're rolling in. Maybe we just needed that
yeah.
element of competition here. So,
Okay.
Kathy, do you want to scan through these, or would you like me to?
Sure. Okay, so Darren said define medical terms warm-up. I'd love to, if you can, if there's a brief way of explaining that, or if you want to be unmuted, I'd love to know what you do for that. Midterm of the day. Give a term, and student must define and use it in a sentence. I like that. Oh, a medical term. Medical day term. Oh my, I need help. Thank you, Marcia. Linda says I use Edmodo. I can't say that word. My sister makes those all the time, but I can't say it. Edmodo.com to post the word of the day early each morning, and students can complete the word of the day on their smartphones or laptops. Linda Hoover, that sounds very engaging for this techno group. Pair up 9th and 10th graders to learn basic skills. Great, cooperative learning there. Students sign in, they change, they complete do now activity, which is related to the week's lesson. Great. That was Stacy. My class have sponsor a book fair here at the school to increase reading and its importance. Oh, that's great. Karen said her class sponsors the book fair. And Donna says that her emerging health professional students complete a thought of the day and respond in writing on a daily basis. Thanks, Donna. While I have that thought of the day, while I have Donna's idea on my brain, I want to share with you what I think it was an electrical teacher told us the other day. He puts a quote of the day on the board every day, which I know is not unusual, but I like his little twist on it. He has the kids discuss the quote, what it means to them, and then together as a group they decide what would a power word be in that quote. So probably an academic word that they may not use in their daily language or they may not be familiar with. Then they underline that word, and that becomes the word of the day that the teacher uses throughout the day and the kids try to use. And that's a great way to just hit on some academic vocabulary. You probably know this from your own students and experience, but we know through research that a lot of students are not getting test questions wrong because they don't know the content. They're getting test questions wrong in many cases because they don't understand the academic language enough to understand what the question is asking. So that's really important. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox. Lindsay says they do drop everything and read every Wednesday, and an article is chosen with a pre-written or pre-arranged question. I love that. I love current event articles being used, especially in your field. My gosh, did you read in the paper yesterday how birth control is now, they're saying it affects vision? Fascinating. This stuff is fascinating. Okay, we do a question of the day, William says, to review material from the day before. That's from Bill. Sorry I called you William, making you all formal today. Each day our students are required to complete a warm-up activity as soon as they come in. That includes a word of the day, Spanish, math question. I'd like to know, Gina, about the Spanish. That's interesting. Is that an ESL strategy, or are the kids really learning Spanish because of being in the medical field and maybe needing to know some basic Spanish?
Kathy, excuse me.
Yeah.
This is Jennifer. We have a couple hands raised. Can I unmute a couple of these folks and hear from them directly? See, just going in alphabetical order by first name here. Karen Phillips has her hand raised. So Karen, I'm going to unmute your microphone. Hi, Karen Phillips. Would you like to share something? Unfortunately, we're not hearing you. Can you check your settings on your microphone, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Excellent. Go ahead, please.
I actually thought that it wasn't raised, so I apologize.
Oh, okay. No
so I don't have
problem.
anything to add right now. Is it still raised?
It is raised, so I will put it down. Okay, I just put it down. So now it is not raised. It is not.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so you're all set.
All
Well,
right.
great. Well, we got your microphone set up, so if you have something to contribute later, please raise your hand.
Okay.
Thank you. Let's see, who else? Oh, another hand went down. So is there anyone who has something that they would like to share? Please raise your hand. Looks like Mindy. Mindy, I'm going to unmute your microphone. Go ahead, Mindy. Hi, Mindy. Did you have something you wanted to share? We're not hearing you quite yet. Okay, Mindy's typed in she didn't intend to raise her hand, so no worries there. We'll put your hand down. Okay, let's see, Anne-Marie Carey. Hi, Anne-Marie. Did you have something you wanted to share? Go ahead, please.
No, I don't know why the hand is up.
Okay. No problem. All right. Well, thank you. I'll put your hand down.
I think we have a bunch of waving healthcare professionals on
I
our
know.
hands.
Everyone's just waving, or they're doing the wave. Yes.
Let's hope they're waving with all 5 fingers. I hope we're not getting rude gestures from this lovely group.
All right, Kathy, get back to you.
Okay, so Kim shared another daily log idea. She does a daily math problem and a vocab word, and then they write a correct sentence using the word and write the equation. Here Michelle said, we have students read nursing magazine articles, then use a summarizing sheet. Esther said, writing to a prompt, students read a Reader's Digest article, medical drama in real life, and write a paragraph of medical issues discussed. And Marcia said math of the day, using dimensional analysis. A learning guide, Mindy said, for each chapter that includes vocab and reading and summarizing. Math problems twice weekly, Christine said. They complete them independently, and then a student completes the work to show how the problem was solved. Stacy said they use a time card that requires a 1-sentence summary. I like that. And Gina said we use a Spanish for nursing course. They are Spanish words specifically for healthcare. Boy, Donna, that wouldn't be a bad idea for some of our LCTI nursing kids to see, would it? Gina said they use a Spanish for nursing course, and that's all in caps, so I assume that's a formal course. That's great. Okay, thank you so much for sharing. We're going to keep moving, and Jennifer will keep an eye on your hands up and your questions. And Jennifer, do not be afraid to just interrupt me. Okay, so let's talk about an engaging learning environment, another piece of the overall classroom management. I have a feeling that as healthcare instructors, you are probably pretty darn good in keeping your environment engaging and organized and clean and appealing, given that that would be your work environment. But let's talk about some of these. I'm going to put them all up at once. This was another of Tracy's slides that she had prepared. I think that's all. So for materials, I'm going to just pause there and say, to really keep kids engaged, I think we're all aware these kids are not going to buy into old film strips. Do you remember those film strips, or how about even the VHS tapes? These are kids that need current, modern, and new materials. That is the world they live in. So I love seeing the current events that you're using. I think that's great. Any equipment that you can keep the most up-to-date is so relevant, especially in your field. How do you set up your lab? Is it set up thoughtfully that kids can easily break into small or large groups? Is it set up so that kids have flow and can move around? Are your sight lines there so that you can see what's going on as much as possible in the room? Is it an engaging learning environment, or does it look like a factory? Not all of us have beautiful buildings. A lot of our buildings are older and maybe even a little drab, but can that be made to look more appealing with those little touches that we can put in there? Our kids are spending 2.5 hours sometimes in our labs, so it really needs to be a place that is visually appealing. On the other hand, is it visually confusing? Is it visually overwhelming? Is it cluttered? Is it difficult to find things because there's so much on the walls? And I just want to point out, Donna knows Bill Young, our small engines instructor at LCTI. I love when you walk into his lab, the very first thing you see on the wall is a fairly large mirror, and on the mirror it says, "Would you hire this person?" And I think that's a great way to walk into a room, so that you're seeing yourself and looking at yourself and wondering, I wonder if I'd be hired with my pants hanging down to my knees and my underwear sticking out. I don't know. Let's think about that. Tracy also brought up the grouping of students, seating arrangements, and color coding. I think in your field you're probably very familiar with color coding, but I know she had said teachers in her building will use, for example, one particular color of paper for each marking period, so that any handouts they use for the first marking period might be in a gold color paper, and then the second marking period might be blue, and that's one way of color coding to organize. And I know there's a million other ways with, if you have AM students and PM students, and using color coding to keep yourself organized and to keep kids organized. Are you taking a look throughout the year at your bulletin boards, or are you putting them up in September or August and letting them there with dust on them until June? Are you keeping things fresh? Is there a word wall that kids can see what vocabulary is important at that moment? And I have a real passion for word walls. Are you keeping your word wall fresh? Are you moving words around based on their level of importance or their level of, are they known? Can they be taken down? I've seen word walls done very creatively in places where people that think they do not have space. One of the things I highly recommend for word walls is that you purchase, you can get it at Office Depot or Staples, but it's more expensive. If you go to Joann's and use their coupons, you can get a roll of self-adhesive magnetic tape, but it's thicker than the word tape would imply, and you snip those apart and put those on the back of your index cards or your sentence strips. And if you have a place such as a magnetic bulletin board, a magnetic whiteboard, or even a door that's metal, to be able to move your words around on your word wall rather than stapling them in, which keeps them fairly stationary. When you can move words around, I have seen teachers do incredible things with pulling words off of the magnetic word wall and just taking the 2 or 3 words and putting those in the center of the whiteboard for the day. When kids walk in, they say, I chose 3 words from the word wall today. What do these 3 words have in common? Why did I choose them together? Just doing quick little activities. But those things should be kept fresh and should be changed, to keep it engaging. Do you use student mentors? That can keep kids engaged in the learning process and in your program when they know they have a mentor, or in the next one when they have a responsibility. So do you have a shop foreman, or do you have someone in charge of equipment every week or every few weeks? Do you have safety posters that they create? Do you have rules that you develop together? What are the students responsible for? A great book that we read at my school several years ago together with a small group is called Never Work Harder Than Your Students. And just that title alone sounds great to teachers, doesn't it? We should not be working harder than our students. We should be letting them do most of the work. We do the behind-the-scenes work, the planning, the preparation, but once we're in the classroom, they should be doing most of the work. Any questions, Jennifer?
I don't see anything at the moment. If anyone has a comment or a question, feel free to type that in or raise your hand.
I have a few other, these are some things that I added to Tracy's slides. The learning environment needs to be engaging, as you know, not just physically, but more importantly, is the level of is your rigor engaging? Are you keeping your level of questions and conversations at a level that is engaging, or are you pretty much asking rhetorical questions? I know we all do that sometimes, but are you asking a question and then going right into answering it? Or are you, look at the second bullet, do students talk and do more than you do? That's essential. Or are you doing all of the talking? Kids will not be engaged if they cannot participate. This is one of the reasons why doing a webinar like this has its challenge, because I'm talking more than my audience, and that's that can be very disengaging, which is why we're trying to ask you to jump in. Some research tells us that after 20 minutes we tune out, and other research tells us that teenagers, after 3 to 5 minutes tune out. So we have to keep our presentation style engaging. Here are some thoughts. I know you all know these, but just a quick review. Are you giving kids the opportunity to pair share? There's a couple different pair shares. Just taking a moment in the middle of a lecture and saying, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think. Okay, the 10 seconds is up. I'd like you to pair and share what you were thinking about. And of course you focus that. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think about the statement I just made, or the statistic I just shared, or the graph I just showed. An alternative to that is I'm going to give you 2 minutes to think and write a response, a reaction to whatever, and then we're going to pair and share. Kids want to be heard. Another way to keep your presentation engaging is to distribute pinch cards. I used this at Penn State for those of you that were there. This is on the right-hand side of your screen, A, B, C, D, or thumbs up, thumbs down. You can print these, or my husband has been teaching for 30 years. He just simply tells the kids to take their handout or to take a scrap piece of paper, put A, B, or C, or if he needs a D, on the back, or put yes at the top, put no at the bottom instead of thumbs up, thumbs down. So it can be done very quickly in the middle of a lesson, and then you start asking some formative assessment questions. Do you agree that this medical discovery could change the way in which, okay, that's as far as I can go with medical talk. You can finish the end. And then they pinch. If they agree, they pinch with their fingers the word yes, and they hold that up over their head. And if they disagree, they pinch no. So it's a quick way to make sure they're with you and they're able to respond and they're able to get their input out there. And then if you see a really big controversy going on in the classroom, there's a 50-50 split, then you can stop and say, wow, we really have a disagreement on that. Let's open that up to discussion. Similarly, you can use small whiteboards. A lot of teachers in my building order small whiteboards, and they do things like that. If you don't have the budget for small whiteboards, you can take a piece of white cardstock, put it in a protective sleeve. Those protective sleeves you put in notebooks, they have 3 holes to put in your notebook and protect special papers. Put it in a protective sleeve. You can even get protective sleeves that are thicker. And then give out white erase or dry erase markers, and you have an instant dry erase board. Another way to keep students engaged in your presentation, I wouldn't do this all the time because it might get old, but if you want to break for discussion, you can hand out, I'm sure a lot of you do this, appointment buddies. So here's a graphic organizer of a clock. You don't need to hand out a graphic organizer with high school kids. You can simply just tell them to take a piece of paper and write down whatever times you want. Write down 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock. And then tell them to go around the room and find a name, find a partner for each one of those times. So I go to Jennifer for my 12 o'clock. I give Jennifer my name. She gives me her name. Then I go to Donna for my 3 o'clock. Donna writes my name down by 3 o'clock. I write her name down by 3 o'clock. And then during the discussion, when you see that your kids are starting to lose their attention a little bit, you say, hey everybody, take out your clock and find your 3 o'clock appointment. Go meet with your 3 o'clock appointment and come up with 2 reasons or 2 summary statements on what we were just talking about. Okay? Another way to keep to keep your presentation engaging, I thought this was cute. I saw someone do this, stand by your quote, stand by your man. You might have to explain that to today's kids. Stand by your quote. So if you're having a controversial discussion or something that you think might spark some interesting conversation, you might want to have 2 or 3 quotes ready. Maybe they're not quotes specifically, maybe they're statistics in your field. That could be very interesting. You put those around the room, and at an appropriate time when you feel the discussion, the kids need to get up and move a little bit, you need to put a little life or energy into the presentation, you tell the kids to read those quotes carefully and then go stand by the one that they most support. And then when they're in their group, they share, this is why I stood by this quote, why did you stand by this quote, and then they share that whole group. Okay.
Kathy, excuse me, this is Jennifer.
Yes.
I just would like to share a comment that Mindy added. She suggested that you can use dry erase markers on the students' desks that they wipe off easily. So she uses dry erase markers instead of going to the expense of purchasing the whiteboards.
Wow, I didn't know that, Mindy. I've been in education over 20 years. I never would have thought of that.
I suppose you might want to just test that out before you before you do that with the whole class, but sounds like on some desks that's an option.
Great. And Mindy, by the way, that reminds me of something that someone said in our commercial arts. Actually, Donna, it's our friend Pat Naley from LCTI. He had no place to put a word wall, and he had a very large floor-to-ceiling piece of glass, like a big window in the back of his room. And he found out that he could just use his dry erase markers on his windows. And so that was another option. Thank you. Okay, well, as you can see, it's your turn again. So how do you keep your environment engaging? And by environment, that can be physically or your presentation style. Is there anything you'd like to share? I'll give you about 30 seconds. And Jennifer, did you happen to address Karen with the has a question about the hand being up and down?
I did not reply to that specifically. I don't recall. Do you recall, Kathy, as a participant, which is red or green?
I don't recall either. We might have to ask some people, ask the group.
Let's see. It looks like Mary. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, the question that Karen has, everyone, is does red mean the hand is up or down? And so I am going to say that Karen, your hand is not, Karen Phillips, your hand is, okay, now your hand is down, Karen. So Karen, let us know, your hand is down now, so tell us what color that is.
And the reason, so everyone knows, the reason that we're not able to tell is that we don't have, as presenters, we don't have a hand raise option. So sorry that we're not able to answer that directly. Looks like we have a couple comments, Kathy. Anne-Marie typed in that she does a campfire where they sit in a circle and discuss certain topics talking about, again, examples of developing an engaging environment. I wonder if s'mores are involved in that. I suppose probably not, but that sounds very interesting.
If they're not, Emery, they should be.
Gina and Jean typed in that they like to decorate for the holidays with students and talk about different cultural celebrations to increase cultural sensitivity and awareness. Linda typed in that she assigns a portion of the upcoming or current assignment to each student and has them present it to the class. They can use different tools such as PowerPoint, Prezi, worksheets, different options there. Kathy, if you have any thoughts on any of these, please interrupt me. I'll just continue reading down the list. Christine shared that she uses a carousel type activity where students are paired and move from one large piece of poster paper on the wall within a short time frame to another. She says that this is a great review strategy for unit tests. Kim shared that she uses a teach your peers activity. She divides out a lesson into segments and has each student teach their section to the class.
Wow.
Dina writes that students love to see themselves. She takes short video clips of the student practicing their skills, and they love to see themselves in action. That's an interesting...
Until they turn 40 or 50.
You know, that reminds me of something I heard. One of the examples related to career skills, where one of the schools was videotaping students during their mock interviews, and then they could actually see how they sat and spoke and see how they did on their interview versus just getting feedback. So that's an interesting way to incorporate that. Let's see. Karen Phillips types, she says, something called "It's the opposite of what you think." That's why.
Oh, no, this is about the hand. This is about the hand being up.
Oh, okay, sorry. I didn't pre-read here. She said that's probably why there is confusion. Okay, so with our hand raising, green means your hand is not up. Red means it is up. So I guess red. So I guess red would mean if you want to put it down, make it stop, go to red, click on red. So yes, thank you, Karen, for...
Well, no, I think she means green is if you want to put it down. Okay, we'll keep going.
Okay. Stacy shared that she puts a student name on a tongue depressor, and then she picks a tongue depressor to have students answer questions. If they don't know the answer, she'll ask someone to be their buddy and help them out. That way everyone, even the quiet ones, have to participate.
Stacy, I'm going to add to that, Jennifer. Stacy, I like that. I've seen that done too, and it seems effective. And I want to share a poster that we made a few years ago based on the work of someone. I can't remember whom, but it's a poster that you hang in your room that says, let me think if I get this right. I may not know that, but what I do know is, and it was a way to kind of cue students that if you ask them a question, they can respond, I may not know that yet, but what I do know is, so they can tell something they know. And I like your idea, they can phone a friend, they can ask someone to help them. But another option to that is, well, tell me what you do know. Okay, go ahead.
Great. And then one final comment from Donna. She says, I like to use small cooperative learning groups for discussions and activities. I select groups on a random basis and change the groups from one day to the next so the students all get to know their classmates. Oh, and one additional comment from Lindsay. Random acts of kindness. She has a monthly winner on that. Student names are placed in a basket all month if they are observed doing something kind and helpful for another, and they can earn a gift certificate as an award.
Great. That's going to be a good tie-in to our next topic. And by the way, Anne-Marie does not serve s'mores. She serves popcorn, which is just as good. So thank you all for sharing. I'm going to move a little quickly so we can wrap up and have some time for questions. But our last topic is positive relationships, and that's what a lot of you were really cueing in on just a moment ago. I like this. We all want to feel cared for and valued by the significant people in our world. Students are no different. Let's look at some ways we can build positive relations. I know you do these things. Not everyone feels in the fast-paced world of teaching anymore, not everyone feels that it's a good use of time to do activities that are getting to know you activities. Instead, they jump right into learning activities, cooperative learning activities, team building activities that have a learning component to them, and let kids get to know each other that way. We know that teachers often use surveys, but are you using that information from the surveys? This is funny, my husband always starts with an electronic survey, and I just asked him last night, how much of that information do you really use? And I was happy to hear that he said he really does focus in on what are they doing when they're not in school. He tries to remember a few of those and talk to the kids about those. This is an oldie but a goodie. I saw this quote by a teacher and I thought it says it all. This has been by far the best first day of school advice I've ever received. I know it may seem like a tired old saw, but this strategy is effective. I always know my kids' names by the time they leave my classroom on the first day. There is actually research to support that greeting kids at the door, not yelling at them across the room while you're checking your email, but greeting them at the door by name really sets a tone for building a positive relationship. Just that little thing. Of course, we want to connect with parents, and in today's world, there are so many ways to do that. Is your website updated or a blog? Are you sending home just little post-it notes? Someone told us at, I think, Penn State that I thought this was a great idea. When a kid does something great in her class, she says to the kid, get out your phone, text your mom. And they text the mom, and then she tells them what to say. So right away, that kid is texting mom saying, hey mom, this is my teacher, she wanted me to tell you this or that. And then they snap a picture, they do a selfie and send the selfie. I think that's a great, quick, wouldn't you love to be at work and get a selfie of your kid and the teacher in front of something he or she did with a little text? Great. Someone had just talked about weekly meetings, you know, the fireside chat, the campfire. There's a whole group, restorative practices that really focuses on this kind of resolution. If you're doing this weekly, building this kind of informal chat and this informal, let's get to know each other, let's create a safe environment, we can say things safely and not be made fun of and so forth. That when there is a problem in the classroom, it's so much easier to resolve that problem when you have this kind of foundation. And again, I chose this picture randomly. I chose this picture from the internet. It's not a class I know, but I chose it purposefully because I think it shows a very relaxed environment, and you don't see the teacher at the head of the classroom here. It is a circle type of format. How about some brag boards? I have some slides that Tracy shared in just a moment. I know we have to be careful with FERPA and HIPAA and all these privacy laws, but this is a guidance counselor who keeps a college acceptance board, but how about certificates earned or skills awards or teacher created awards? I loved that Random Acts of Kindness award. Tracy shared this with us, and I have another one. This is what one of her teachers does. Every kid creates their own little poster that is then displayed in the classroom. It's, you know, you think only elementary age kids want to do this, but it's not so. Kids want to be heard, they want to be valued, they want you to know who they are. Here's another one. Just two last ideas for building positive relations. I always instilled this in any class, and I've taught kindergarten on up to high school. And one of the ways that I make sure kids build relationships with other, and bonus, give me a little more independence so that I can walk around the room and not always be interrupted. Ask 3 before me. That poster always hung up in my room. Before you come to me, unless there's blood, or when I was teaching young kids, urine, unless there's blood, vomit, or urine, ask 3 before me. If we're involved in an activity where I'm walking around the room or I'm working with a small group, I may ask you to prove, who did you ask before you asked me? And the other one I always did was I always kept a place on the blackboard, or now the whiteboard, where it would say make an appointment, and that was just a numbered list. If you need to talk to me, but I am working with a small group or I am otherwise busy with a student, and you've asked 3 and they can't help you, and it's really not an emergency or urgent, then put your name on the board to make an appointment with me. And I was very, very, very consistent with the very first minute I had free, I would look at the appointment board and I would systematically go to those people, otherwise they wouldn't believe and they wouldn't do that again. Do we have time for positive relations? I'm not sure. So type it in, and I'm going to keep going, and then we'll try to pull a few out. I just want to respect our ending time. So anything you do to develop positive relations, and that may be like those last suggestions on how do you build positive relations, not just with your students, but student to student, so that you have a little more independence in your classroom. You're not always the sage on the stage.
Say that. We do have a couple additional ideas on that, Kathy. Maybe I can read those quickly, and then we can do our wrap-up. Dina, or Dinah, I apologize, I'm not quite sure which pronunciation you use, typed in that she gathers their birth dates on a personal intake form at the beginning of the year, and when it is their birthday, she places a birthday card on their desk with a small tree. Karen shared that her students engage in an activity that she picked up from a college professor. The name of the game, or name of the activity, is Getting to Know One Another Bingo. So on the first day of school, each student has something that looks like a bingo card, and each block on the card has a personal quality written on it, such as I love pizza. Each student must introduce themselves to every student in the class and ask them to sign their card on one of the blocks that describes them. The student must get every student to sign. She writes that she loves this activity because it encourages student confidence and new friendships. That's really, it sounds fun. And then finally, Gina and Jean shared positive phone calls to parents, top of the class awards, personal thank yous, and congratulation cards for students. All great ideas.
Thank you for sharing. This was Tracy's slide, and I thought it was, I just think it's so sweet. You know, why do we put all this energy? Why don't we just show up and say, my job is to give you this content? Why do we spend so much energy, time, money, everything, building these relationships, building an engaging environment, tweaking our routines, learning, joining things like webinars? It's because we are more than teachers. We are all of these different things, and boy, you certainly are a nurse, but even those of you, even those educators like myself who are don't have backgrounds in nursing, boy, I feel often like I am. So many different hats we wear. And Jennifer, I think I'm now going to switch screens back to you. That concludes my portion of the presentation.
Okay, I'll take the control back, and I just want to share one sort of wrap-up thought that Mindy added, and I think it's right on point for our sort of our wrap-up and our closing thoughts for the day. Mindy wrote, I make sure I take the time to listen to the students and justify their thoughts and feelings. If the students know they can trust you, they will have more respect, which will result in less undesirable behaviors. She writes, it's been very effective. Students love rewards, but I've found that they love the fact that you care even better. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and take back the screen.
That is it. I mean, it's sad to say, but a lot of kids don't feel cared about, especially at school where they spend a great portion of their lives. So CTE teachers have such a unique opportunity to build that relationship because you're not just seeing them for 42 minutes a day.
Yep. Okay. And so are you seeing the parting thought screen then? Is that visible?
This is where I get afraid that I'm going to cut everyone off. Oh, I do. Oh, thank you, Jennifer. Do you want me to go ahead and...
Sure, go ahead, please, and then I'll wrap up.
This just is in line with what Mindy just said. This is my favorite quote. I have used this for 2 decades with workshops and teachers and parents. I'm going to read it because I like it that much. I've come to a frightening conclusion. I am the decisive element in the classroom. It's my personal approach that creates the climate. It's my daily mood that makes the weather. As a teacher, I possess a tremendous power to make a child's life miserable or joyous. I can be a tool of torture or an instrument of inspiration. I can humiliate or heal. In all situations, it is my response that decides whether a crisis will be escalated or de-escalated, and a child humanized or dehumanized. Jennifer's heard me read this now 3 times. I get chills still every time I see her read this quote. The power we have as teachers, we don't always understand. We have to be mindful. Are we humanizing or dehumanizing? Are we humiliating or are we healing? Because we know that learning, no matter how interesting, fascinating, trendy, whatever we're trying to teach, is not going to get through to our students unless they feel that they're in an environment that is a place where they can safely learn. You also know, if you have children that go to school, when a child is in a classroom all day long where they do feel humiliated, where they do feel dehumanized, it affects the whole family. And we have a very powerful job as teachers to create a climate where we are helping instead of hurting. So thank you so much for listening today and participating in this great topic.
Thank you, Kathy. Thanks for sharing Tracy's information as well as adding your own. There's a wealth of information there, and we appreciate all of our participants sharing ideas as well. So all of us combined really, do have a lot of experience and great information to share. So just a couple moments on some webinar follow-up information. You will be receiving from us within the next day or so a follow-up email to our session today. That will include a copy of our PowerPoint presentation, which will also get posted to the SAS community site, as well as a self-assessment tool that Kathy put together. This isn't anything that you need to send back to us. It's simply some items for you to look at, reflect on, and perhaps if you identify some areas where you would like some additional professional development, to share that with your administration or one of your coaches at your school. So we hope you'll find that helpful and something that will give you an opportunity to reflect back on our session today. We'll also be including a copy of our PLC yearbook for your group. For those of you who might not be familiar with that, we are putting together a directory of sorts where we are sharing names, email addresses, and some additional information and a photo to help us get to know one another and to try to break down some of the barriers that can be part of working in a virtual group such as ours. So please make use of that. We will be creating an update in the next month or so. So if you are not included in there and would like to be, please let us know. As well as if there's some information in there that's not correct, please let us know. Or if you have anything to add. You'll see that some folks have included their photos and information about hobbies and whatnot, and it's fun and interesting to see that. So we do encourage you, to the extent that you're willing to share about yourself, to do that. We also will send you information about how to register for the next webinar, which will take place in January. I don't have the exact date here, but that information will be available to you. Let's see. And then with that, here's our contact information. Kathy, did I miss anything in the wrap-up there?
Well, your next webinar is January 23rd, so everyone have a great holiday season. But I do want to just say I did not get a chance to show Google Images, so just very quickly, I think this is such a great, I know most of you know it, but for those who don't, when you Google something, it comes up as, you know, what websites you can go to. But right above all of those, all the things that came up, it will set, there's a place to click on images. And if you click on images, now you'll get images of what you just searched for. And then you can copy those and put them into your PowerPoints or into your other documents. So someone at your school, I'm sure, can tell you that. I just wanted to circle back to that. I promised I would.
Sure. Thank you. All right. Does anyone have any closing thoughts or questions that they would like to share or they would like for us to address, either about the PLCs or the information that we talked about today? If so, we'll give you a minute or so to do that.
Yeah, I'm going to suggest, Jennifer, we'll keep the webinar open for an extra minute or two so that you can type in what you would like us to tell Dr. Burkett. Even if you can't attend that conference, what do you think should be available as a session? Is there a piece of equipment you want the manufacturer to come and discuss? Is there a textbook author that you want to come here? You know, what's going on in your field that you would like her to look into as a session at the conference? Because so far we have nothing to share with her, and I hate to say this, but you're the only group that hasn't given us any feedback for Dr. Burkett, so please do so.
Thank you. And then for the rest of you, we appreciate your participation today. Hope that you've heard some ideas or some examples of strategies that you can take back and use in your classroom even this afternoon. So thanks for your attention, and we'll look forward to meeting with you again in January. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.